Hey, what's up, everyone? You are listening to the Cinema Cafe podcast. I'm your host, Kennedy. And with today's episode, I'm going to discuss Alone Across the Pacific, a film by Ichikawa Kon. And this one is the number 69th release from the Masters of Cinema series. For those of you who are not familiar with Masters of Cinema, the Masters of Cinema organization was founded back in 2001 and was initially unrelated to Eureka's Entertainment's Limited, the main company who would end up uh, acquiring the company. The four co-founders of Masters of Cinema were spread across, the world, Canada, USA, and the UK, and together they contributed to the popular website mastersofcinema.org, which was a touchstone for the worldwide cinephile community. In early 2004, Masters of Cinema began collaborating with Eureka on the Masters of Cinema series, and in late 2008, Eureka consolidated their investment in the series by acquiring the Masters of Cinema organization outright. The Masters of Cinema series is now a wholly owned label of Eureka's Entertainment Limited London. So you can see it. You can look at this sub-label or this Master of Cinema series of what it is for the UK, similar to what the Criterion Collection is in the United States. Eureka Entertainment is a leading independent distributor of classic silent early films in the UK. The company was responsible for bringing to the market the fully restored, remastered, and most comprehensive version of Fritz Lang's classic Metropolis film. That was from 1927. 2004 saw the birth of the new Masters of Cinema series, specifically curated collections on DVD and Blu-ray of classic and world cinema using the finest available materials for home viewing. So you had important releases such as Showa, Onibaba, Sunrise, The Prisoner of Shark Island, and so forth. This includes, the complete Buster Keaton short films as well. So Eureka Entertainment is independently owned and has been involved in film distribution since 1981, and I believe in 2000, I believe next year they'll be celebrating their 45th year anniversary. Most recently, Eureka has worked with Celluloid Dreams, Gaumont, the Criterion Collection, and Toho, Nikatsu, and many other companies throughout the world. So, we're gonna go ahead and discuss Alone Across the Pacific. So here we go. Before I begin, I just want to say that this podcast, um, I'm just going to be drinking coffee, discussing cinema, and depending on what season of the year it is, you might hear my fan on, or you might hear other noises such as police sirens or whatever, or dogs. Hopefully, no dogs barking. But I've been doing this for many years. I was a film critic, and I pretty much, unlike other film critics who are very particular in the type of cinema they watch, some watch it all, some don't. Who are very more, I guess you could say, um, I don't want to use the word elitist, cinema elitist, but part of being a cineast is, having a passion for film, having a passion for cinema, having an open mind, and watching things that, possibly majority of people do not get to watch. Um, for me, I have a passion of cinema from around the world, um, going as far back as the silent years to even to talkies to noir you know to even modern films, of course. But um, I think if anything, I enjoy talking about cinema to a lot of people because it's a good conversation breaker for those who are. You could tell when people are cineas and the kind of directors they talk about, the kind of directors they list as part of their favorite, and especially when they discuss films. Granted, a lot of people you'll talk to are mostly towards modern films or action or I think for me, it's more of the opposite. I like discussing uh, cinema with people who are open to watching classics. May it be the Nouvelle Vague to you know to there's just so many things going in my mind right now, but yeah, I think you get the idea of the types of films that are available. Maybe from Germany. I was just thinking about Germany from the 1920s to the silent films of the 1910s to the 1920s, including the of course even the films from the 30s and 40s, and a lot of stuff in the 60s, 70s. Um, there are quite a good number of films to discuss, and of course the 80s and 90s, and even to present day. I think there is a lot of good cinema out there. You just have to be open, and I think there's a lot of people who tend to watch a lot of films specifically based on hype, especially these days, right? People who want to talk about films that are, you know, box office hits, and there, unfortunately, there are a lot of films that are, uh, I guess you could say, they don't get the same type of promotion or discussion online, and it's understandable why. It's always been like that. But the thing is that I hope with my podcast of having these discussions about cinema, we can, we can discuss, we can have fun, and just talk about your thoughts about the film. And it's something, just go ahead and post in the comments if there's something, if you have any type of, you know, thoughts of a certain film or actor or director. This is the place for it. I like to discuss, cinema, and I hope to discuss with this through this podcast with you. So we are going to talk about Alone Across the Pacific, Taiheyo Hitori-Bochi, and this one was directed by Ichikawa Kon. And by the way, I use the Japanese family names first. It's how it is, and I try to respect the culture and how they say it. I don't want to westernize things to the point that, oh yeah, everything has to be this way. So instead of saying Akira Kurosawa, you're going to hear me say Kurosawa Akira. It's just more of respect in that, in the fact that, yeah, that's how I tend to prefer discussing or even talking about Japanese entertainers and so forth. So the film was directed by Ichikawa Kon. The story is by Horie Kenichi, and film was written by Wada Nato, produced by Akira Nakai. Cinematography is by Yamazaki Yoshiro, and this stars Ishihara Yujiro as the youth, Mori Masayuki as the youth's father, Tanaka Kinuyo as youth's mother, Asaoka Ruriko as youth's sister, and Hana Hajime as the youth's friend. Okay, so this is an interesting film. So back in 1962, a yachtsman named Horie Kenichi rose to prominence when he illegally sailed across the Pacific Ocean from Nishinomiya, Japan, and ended up in San Francisco, California. And this is a true story. The time was different back then. In 1962, as post-war Japan had strict rules on its citizens sailing, but for had strict rules on citizens sailing, but for the 3 months, no Japanese had attempted to sail that far. Uh, I guess it's understandable, right? Post-war, Japan was still rebuilding. They didn't want to get into trouble. It was a different time. But the thing is, cinema-wise, we started to see some really good stuff come out around that decade. But for the yachtsman Horie Kenichi, it was an obsession, a goal that he had to make happen, and that's to sail as far as he could. So Horie braved bad ocean conditions with no passport. He didn't have much money at all. And sure enough, he arrived in the United States where he was arrested because of this extraordinary feat, which Horie accomplished. He was given a 30-day visa and awarded a key to the city by the mayor of San Francisco. Since then, Horie has continued to sail the seas solo in boats that are environmentally friendly, which included a recent 2008 trip. Well, it's not recent anymore, but back in 2008, he took a trip with a wave energy based boat from Hawaii to Japan. Back in 1962, what Horie accomplished was not only in the news in America, but also in Japan, as people were shocked of what he did. Horie wrote a book called Taiheyo Hitori-Bochi, Alone Across the Pacific, and a year later, the book was adapted into a film by Wada Nato. Wada was responsible for writing Fires on the Plain, The Burmese Harp, Tokyo Olympiad, and directed by multi award winning director Ichikawa Kon. Fires on the Plain, The Burmese Harp, Ototo, Kagi. The film marks the first and only collaboration between Ichikawa and cinematographer Yamazaki Yoshihiro. Yamazaki was known for his films A Promise, Women Who Do Not Divorce. Alone Across the Pacific revolves around a youth, played by enka singer and actor Ishihara Yujiro, who is determined to sail the seas from Japan to America illegally. The youth has worked for his father, played by Mori Masayuki, who was in the film Rashomon and Ugetsu in The Bad Sleep Well. The youth has worked for his father to save money for the parts needed to build a yacht. For the youth, he has no interest in college, nor is he driven to have a full time career. Usually these days they call these people hikikomori, but yeah, but hikikomori tend to be people who are locked in their homes. This person, he just wanted to sail the seas. Didn't matter. Just had that goal in his mind, and his goal was to travel from Japan to the U.S. And of course, all his family and friends thinks he's crazy. While we watch the youth travel and confront various weather conditions as he is on his way to the United States, we are greeted with flashbacks of the youth as he confronted his father, um, his worrying mother, played by Kinuyo Tanaka, who was in the films of Getsu, Sancho the Bailiff, and Life of Oharu, and his sister, played by Asaoka Mururiko, who appeared on Goyokin and Tobo. His mother worries that he will get arrested or something bad will happen, but no matter what she says, the youth is determined to make his dream become a reality. Even his friend, played by Ishihara Yujiro, tries to dissuade him, but everyone knows that the youth is driven by his ambition to sail from Japan to America, and that there is no way to stop him. For the youth, he is a rebel towards Japanese society and eagerly awaits to get away from the growing metropolis. But will the stubborn youth discover something new throughout his difficult journey, especially when he does reach America? So this is a very fascinating film. To discuss this Masters of Cinema series, it's on DVD, of course. Uh, when it was first released, it was on DVD, and the film was shot in Hawaii and San Francisco, but also out on sea. I don't know too much about how Nikatsu put into the visual effects at the time, but we do know that it was shot in the sea. Yamazaki was able to obtain the effect of a man in a solitary, I guess you could say, his anguish of being out alone in the sea, and Nikatsu was able to capture that through the through the through this film. The film is presented in 235-1, and I have to say that when I watched this, the film looked great. 50 years later, 50 years later, and Masters of Cinema did a wonderful job when they did release this transfer. Um, of course, when I first watched it, when Masters of Cinema released it, it was on DVD. But the special features that were included was a Japanese trailer. It was a 3-minute trailer featuring the original Japanese theatrical trailer, and it also offered the teaser, two teasers, um, and it came with a 24-page booklet titled "Escaping Japan: The Quest in Ichikawa Kon's Taiheyo Hitori-Bochi" by Brent Kluwer, which was originally published in the Cinematheque Ontario in 2001. It also includes reproductions of the original Japanese poster and archival publicity stills in the booklet. So, my thoughts. Well, Alone Across the Pacific could have been a clean cut film and made the character of an ordinary yachtsman traveling the high seas to the United States and literally making him a hero. But if you're familiar with Ichikawa Kon films, the characters are never clean cut, nor are they shown as perfect individuals. Wada Nato does another fantastic job of fleshing out the script and providing us an interest and entertaining character narrative for the character of the young man. The portrayal of the 23-year-old shows a young man against the current trend of Japan. To be a hardworking person, you need to go to college, listen to your family, and take on a career or even inherit the family business. But this youth is a rebel, and this is what makes Alone Across the Pacific an ideal Nikatsu film. Whereas many Nikatsu-related films on young rebelliousness can be seen in many other films, what makes Alone Across the Pacific satisfying is that there is no society to rebel against in the film. The young man's rebelliousness is against his family, and by showing it by pursuing his obsession of traveling across the Pacific Ocean. The young man feels isolation, of course, of riding 92 days in his yacht, braving the dangers and the weather conditions, and, he realizes that his life can end any time. So he has memories of his family, his dog, but what happens when certain things start to happen to the ship? And I think I'll leave it at just at that without having to. I don't want to spoil the film for you. While this DVD did not feature a ton of features, I think that the 24-page booklet was a wonderful inclusion. It really goes into detail on the talent and Brent Kluwer's thoughts about the film. But the truth is that many Japanese filmmakers, aside from Kurosawa, forgive me as I have allergies at this moment in time, and sometimes I have to cough. So if you hear pausing or certain times of pausing, it's because I had to cough. So my apologies for that. But yeah, this film had not been easily accessible to international viewers, and Alone Across the Pacific, it just tends to be those films that, I'm surprised has not been released stateside at the time, and I don't even know if it's even have been released. I think the only way to, when I had to access this film back then was the Masters of Cinema series, and I think that this is definitely a film that one can find entertaining and fun in contrast to Fires on the Plain, Kokoro, and even The Burmese Harp. When compared to Ichikawa's later works, such as the Makioka Sisters and 47 Ronin, Alone Across the Pacific is a film that manages to have creativity due to the tight cinematography and making the viewers feel that isolation and the tightness of the area. I think that was very important, and this Ichikawa, a legendary filmmaker, and working with a legendary cinematographer, they were able to capture that. There's nothing but the yacht and endless ocean. Pretty much, you feel that isolation. The cinematography manages to capture that feeling of the youth being alone, and I think what was also very important about the film was its flashbacks. These flashbacks give depth to the character, and in my take, shows that even through the challenges that this man goes through, how he was before and how he would be after. For some people, standing in the front line of death can definitely change one's perspective towards life and one's habits, but not everyone in this case, considering the character is based on Horie Kenichi, and Horie is still doing this nearly 50 years later after he made his first solo trip. We can realize that that this has always been his dream, and, he's been living it. In many ways, it goes against traditional Japanese and traditional Japanese culture, and the Japanese traditional ways of doing things. And I think that's what makes this film wonderful. It based on the true story, and at the time, for Japanese cinema, there's been a lot of focus on rebelliousness. May it be people who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, or joined the yakuza, or something, or got into some major, shady deals. This rebelliousness was not that type of rebelliousness. It was a rebelliousness towards his family and wanting to go explore beyond the ocean near Japan, I guess you could say. Granted, the film is, quite predictable, but I still found Across the Pacific quite entertaining. It may not be the best film from Ichikawa Kon, but it still manages to contain the elements of character building, and that's one thing that Ichikawa is best. He's really known for in his films. If you enjoyed Ichikawa Kon films in the past and want something different and more upbeat, definitely give Alone Across the Pacific a chance. And if you can definitely find the Masters of Cinema release, I highly recommend it. Okay, everyone, you take care, and I will see you later. Wink, wink, and